Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. You sons of bitches are in for it now. Oh, yes, indeed. We're in the Retro Rebound room, and today we're talking about my favorite game of all time, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and why you need to play it this year. Time is up, pals. Time to play this game. Why am I being so persistent? I'll explain in a moment, but ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you like these types of videos where we throw it back a little bit, I have this cool channel called Retro Rebound you could check out where we throw it back constantly, but we do that occasionally over here for RPGs I feel you need to play because I consider myself a little bit of an RPG aficionado. Like, I have some good recommendations under my belt, this being my number one suggestion. So if you're new here, you're into that stuff, consider subscribing here, consider subscribing over at Retro Rebound. Why am I pressing you on this right now? Well, you know, the news isn't too hot around Knights of the Old Republic Remake, and for about almost a year now, I've had to deal with any time I talk about KOTOR, I've had to read, I've had to have people tell me, I want to play the original, bro, I do, but you know what, I'm going to wait for the remake that we don't know much about. And look, I was like the number one believer, but even I would not have recommended that. Your fallback option is gone, ladies and gentlemen, it's gone, because right now, according to the news from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg, Knights of the Old Republic Remake, it's not canceled. But that son of a gun is on hold while Aspyr works on other projects, meaning this game is on the shelf for a decent amount of time until they figure something out. Hopefully it's not too long for my own sanity. Clearly I'm losing it now. But in that stretch of time, you could play the original, which is not corrupted, which you don't have to worry about, which is a 10 out of 10 video game, and it's right here. So with that, as always, I like to throw it back, give you the complete box experience. You pull this beautiful game off the shelf in 2003. What do you have? I'm going to show you that, and then we're going to talk about the game and why you need to play it this year. So, taking a look at it, this is the original copy of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I have 3 copies of this game. I got a Platinum Hits one, I have my original one, which is in a Blockbuster case, and then I had to buy this one because, you know, it's got the green casing for it. It's nice and official. This is good for video presentation, right? So this is my video copy. Like I said, losing sanity steadily because of the KOTOR remake delay, so bear with me here. Anyway, the back says, choose your path. It is 4,000 years before the Galactic Empire and hundreds of Jedi Knights have fallen in battle against the ruthless Sith. You are the last hope of the Jedi Order. Can you master the awesome power of the Force on your quest to save the Republic? Or will you fall to the lure of the dark side? Hero or villain, savior or conqueror, you alone will determine the destiny of the entire galaxy. A brand new Star Wars role-playing experience with unique characters, creatures, vehicles, and planets. Learn to use the Force with over 40 different powers and build your own lightsaber. Travel 7 enormous worlds including Tatooine and the Sith world of Korriban. Choose your party from the customizable characters including Twi'leks, droids, and Wookiees, and build your party and upgrade equipment in your own starship, the Ebon Hawk. Cracking it on open, the beautiful disc art here with Malak and Bastila, and then you've got one of the chunkiest manuals of all time. Look at this thick boy. Look at this. Beautiful. Cracking it open. It's very similar to if you've seen the KOTOR 2 manual, even though that's from Obsidian. You have a lot of the sci-fi borders, if you will, with lots of character portraits in here. And of course, a masterful game has to have a masterful manual. And you have to remember, with this game coming out in 2003, it was a very transformative RPG for its time, and especially for BioWare, who did more top-down RPGs. So yes, they had to break down things like the attributes, the skill system here, how progression worked, all the combat feats, what they did, how they interacted with each other, how combat was displayed. This type of stuff was new. Nowadays, a lot more common. But anyway, I love this manual for all the art it has, all the color it has. For me, it's just, I'm a simple guy. Put color, put portraits, put cool stuff in your manual, and I'm probably gonna like it and give it a good review. Anyway, closing it on up, that's your complete box copy of KOTOR. Why do you need to play it this year? Let's talk. Like I said, your time for waiting and delaying and putting it off is at an end. You have no more excuses with the remake being indefinitely delayed. If you have put it off because of that, now is your chance. You have a window. Nothing else is really coming out right now. You have a window. It's time to be opportunistic with your time. I'm borderline counseling you into this video game, I know, but hear me out. In all seriousness, why I want a lot of people to play this game is I truly do think it is the best role-playing game to ever be made. Yeah, there's a little bit of fanboyism in there, but in all truth, I think that this game did so much for choice and consequence in video games that I can't help but appreciate it in retrospect. But even for its time, there's so much control over your playthrough and the fate of your party members that I just absolutely adore it. If there's one thing I can warn you guys about before we really get deep into it, it is the combat can be a bit hit or miss. Now, let's talk platforms. I'm holding an original Xbox copy. You can play this in backwards compatibility via the Xbox Series X, the Xbox One, whatever, 360. You could throw it into all these consoles and, of course, the original Xbox and play it that way. There is also the PC, and through modding, you can get this game to run a little bit better. For me, it typically never worked well with mods. Even the ones that would upgrade the aspect ratio of the game made it look so much better, because right now it only plays in 4:3, and your image quality, as you'll see in some of my gameplay, will be stretched. And for me, I'd rather it be a little stretched and fill up the whole screen than have the black bars, but I know different blokes, different strokes, right? But again, you can play it on PC. Now, since our last KOTOR video here on the channel, you can also play it on Switch. Do not get this one mixed up with KOTOR 2. Right now, KOTOR 2 on Switch, kind of broken. We're still waiting for that patch with the restored content mod that will provide all of those fixes that the base game desperately needs. And then on top of that, adding in more reasons to play the game because, you know, the ending sequence is just alone worth waiting for that mod. But the base version of KOTOR that was ported to Switch was done right and is worth your money and is worth your time. They really didn't sacrifice anything. The only notable change that I caught wind of for the KOTOR Switch port was some audio switches, which is, I think, because they used the mobile version and then ported that over to the Switch. But otherwise, the game looks great. It runs well. It is the exact experience you get here just on a console you more than likely have available to you compared to like an original Xbox setup. But this game goes for about 20 bucks now, so if you're interested in playing it just back compat, you can pick it up on eBay for that price tag. Okay, for me, like I said, I think this game did so much for choice and consequence in the role-playing genre. Why is that? Because at the time, usually when you got a lot of choice and consequence, it came in the form of, much like BioWare used to do, isometric RPG. So there was this sort of graphical sacrifice, and because there was a graphical sacrifice, the design choice was to pursue narrative branching paths, and you could do that a lot easier when you're not having what at its time, I know it doesn't look it now, but at its time was AAA graphics. But this game managed to look really good for its time, have a very distinct art style, a simple one, if you will, but at the same time, account for a lot of choices. Now, the choices, as you'll see on the back of the box here, account for the light side and the dark side. It says, choose your path. So as you make certain choices in KOTOR, you'll gain light side and dark side points. Now, not every single one of these choices is going to be branching and splinter tons of different paths throughout your quest. Sometimes it's just, I want to roleplay and be a Sith. I'm going to kill this person. I'm going to steal this. I'm going to do that. And justifying it that way. And you'll get dark side points. You'll get different quest rewards. And it's become the building block for one of my favorite features that I feel is very scarcely found in current video games, which is different rewards based off choices you make. I can't stand when I play a game and let's say I'm trying to be a good guy and I get the same reward as if I was a bad guy. Let's use, I don't know, let's say Sonic Forces was a game that had choice and consequence, okay? Let's say there was a light side path for Sonic Forces and a dark side path where you're like Shadow the Hedgehog or some crap, okay? Let's say you go to the dark side path, you'd still get points for that, but you'd get 100 credits. Meanwhile, the light side path would also give you 100 credits. A lot of games today do that. What I love about KOTOR is that in its quest rewarding system, what'll happen is if you do the light side stuff, typically you're gonna kind of lose out. Like you're not gonna get as much money, but you did the right thing. Whereas if you took the dark side path, you got more money and you got more items and you're way more powerful, but it's at the cost of your party members. It's at the cost of the world around you reacting to you poorly and not liking what you did. And of course, changing your ending. That's what I love about this game so much is I feel like the choice and consequence is built into its reward structure. And I think that's the best way to feed the player. Sometimes it's not enough just to say, you did a bad thing. Points to the dark side. Ah, yeah. Right? That's not enough. It's something you have to see and feel as a player, right? Like you have to get an item. And when you come back, like you should with RPGs, and replay it, and you go down that light side path, and it's like, oh, I didn't get that same item. I just got a little bit of money because that person really didn't have much, and I just helped them out of a tough spot. But I did the right thing. You're just doing the right thing. That's all. And I think that kind of balance, if you will, is tough to strike, but I love it about this game. So to me, the light and dark side stuff matters because it's not just a what ending will I get type of choice. It's also what in the moment reward will I get that sort of sways that decision making. And it feels very on point because, you know, the light and dark side stuff in Star Wars, like dark side is very impulsive in nature, right? Think about Anakin, the OG, right? And how he betrays Mace Windu for the Emperor to save Padme and to protect her, right? That impulsive decision making. So I feel this game captures light and dark side choices really well. And while that may sound like I'm just speaking as, oh, this does Star Wars really well, again, it goes back to the reward structure there that I think is really good for choice and consequence, especially at its time. And we don't see it much nowadays, which is really disheartening. Beyond that, though, you get a story crafted by Drew Karpyshyn, one of my favorite writers in the industry, responsible for the likes of Mass Effect, helped out with Jade Empire. I believe he helped work on Dragon Age Origins. You know, just anything this guy touches turns to gold. And this is my favorite story from him because the characters that are interwoven feel so naturally brought together. And only when you really speak to them separately on the Ebon Hawk and you find out the purpose for their journey, does it feel all the more like everyone is one big family. But you can also become a very dysfunctional family and do some crazy stuff towards the end of the game. Again, my goal with these videos is never to spoil you, but just to entice you that there is some crazy power plays you can pull on your team in this game when you want, again, especially at the end. So that's just a long-winded way of saying not only do I love the choices, but the storytelling here is fantastic. It's split up in a planet-by-planet basis, so you're going to see all of your Star Wars favorites from Tatooine to Korriban to places that are relatively unfamiliar like Manan. And that's one of the things I love about this game is it was really my introduction to Star Wars because as much of a prequel geek as I am now, growing up I just liked Episode 3 and that was kind of it. But KOTOR was really my introduction to Star Wars before all of that. I wasn't into the other Star Wars movies. This is what pulled me in. And I think it's because the Old Republic era is extremely different from anything you see, especially in modern Star Wars, where like everyone's a good guy. Here it's a lot more lawless. It's a lot more political. Yes, even compared to the Clone War era, it's way more political than that. I love that there are vibroblades in the game. To me, that always spoke to me because it's showing how dated, if you will, everything is. Like, not everyone's carrying a lightsaber like myself and many others were introduced to back in the day with, say, the prequel era, where everyone and their mother and their brother and their grandfather had a lightsaber. In this game, you start off with like a short sword. I love that. I love that natural buildup. So it's that natural buildup, that natural incline as you become a Jedi, you start getting your powers, the choices you make. It's just so masterfully done. Now for the gameplay, okay? The gameplay here, I like. You know, after playing games like, and this is going to sound really weird, but Xenoblade 3 for a recent example, and for a dated one, but I just reviewed it over on Retro Rebound, Final Fantasy 12, there's definitely a lot of room for KOTOR to grow. If you were to take that base gameplay format and look at it as is and what it could become, I think those two games were representative of what KOTOR started, right? And I think it's enough to get you from point A to point B, but just with the limited amount of combat feats, flurry, power attack, critical attack, and a basic attack, some force powers, it's a game that you're not going to be there for the combat. That was the number one reason I was pumped for the remake is I don't think KOTOR's gameplay is bad. I think it's good. I just know there's room for improvement, and I know a lot of people will struggle with that. I don't think it's so bad that you should just avoid the game at all costs. It certainly is worth a shake to see if you like it. But that was the one reason I was excited for the remake is it was going to be more action-oriented. And because it was going to be more action-oriented, that probably would have brought more people in the door if you told the same story, but you shifted the gameplay a little bit, but still allowed for that same class structure and role-playing structure. Speaking of which, as you're going through combat, you're going to level up, you pick your attributes, your skills. There's a character creator at the beginning of the game. Not a great one. You know, you pick a number of portraits. None of them really look like me. So I was like, whatever, I'll just B, whoever, doesn't matter. And once you're done with all of that, you'll gradually progress in the game. And when you unlock force powers, that'll become a part of your leveling system. And so there's more and more choices that you can make with certain characters in your party. One thing that does stink though is, unlike in KOTOR 2, where eventually you can make party members Jedis, all of them, which was awesome, in KOTOR 1, there are some characters that stay non-Jedi. And you'll typically find yourself just favoring the Jedi like Juhani, Jolee, Bastila. Whenever they can be in your party, you're going to want them in the party because they do the most damage, they're the most effective in combat, they have the most abilities. It's just way more worthwhile, especially as you get deeper into the game. There's more energy shields and so on and so forth. It's just not worth keeping characters that are like Canderous, who are hulking around blasters. Not that they're bad. Maybe you could, again, use them as, say, like a double vibro blade wielder or something like that. But I just always found more success with the Jedi. So that's the one thing, you'll find yourself kind of getting nudged down a particular path where certain party members are better than others. I don't think that's necessarily a problem. But overall, I adore this game so much. I just implore you all to give it a try, because what motivated me in my mocking ways was hearing so many people say, I'm going to wait for the remake. And it's like, what are you, life's passing us all by. We don't know when we're going to go. Why don't we just play KOTOR now? Come on. Anyway, I'm pressuring you all into it. In all seriousness, this is a great game. I do love so much. And I love hearing stories from all of you. When I get tweets, when I get messages saying like, hey, I tried it and it was great. And just to make it clear, I don't expect any of you to love it as much as I do. I really don't. I don't put anyone up to that task. I just think it's a really good RPG you may enjoy that you could have slept on. That's all. But I'm very passionate about it, clearly. So if you have played it, sound off down below, just so people know it's not only me who's crazy about this game. And if you end up wanting to play it, come on back. Let me know what you thought of the game. Looking forward to seeing your thoughts. With that, thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate all of you. And I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.